Okay. All right. So, hello, everybody. So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're calling from. My name is Ben Mahessan, and I am the BJ Membership and Account Manager here at BJ, and will be hosting today's Capacity Building Workshop session. So, yeah, welcome to the first ever session on African and Middle Eastern Capacity Building Workshop. So, this workshop series is dedicated to addressing the needs and wants of business schools in the region of Africa and the Middle East. Today's session is on internationalization strategies for African and Middle Eastern business schools, where we will delve into some examples of internationalization and the steps taken to implement these strategies. I'm absolutely thrilled today to be joined by Amine, so Director in charge of Development, International Relations and Communications at ISCAE Business School. Abraham Osinubi, Executive Director of University of Lagos Business School. And Thabang, Moleko and Tshidi Mohapeloa from Rhodes Business School. Okay, so shortly I'll be handing over to these speakers, but I'll just say that I'll keep the chat open and feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A boxes. So each speaker will present their presentation, and we'll do the Q&A right at the very end when all today's speakers have finished presenting. So yeah, please feel free to participate in the chat box and the Q&A session, and let's create this a learning and sharing atmosphere. Okay, so we're gonna crack on straight away. So first I'm gonna hand over to Amine from ISCAE. So Amine, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ben. Hello, everyone. So my talk actually and presentation will be structured as follows, following the 8 main sections, especially talking about the conceptualization or conceptualizing the international strategy first, then talking and I will give a dedicated section to international student mobility and the challenges that we are facing today of win-win partnership in the Middle Eastern and North African region, and the 4 conditions to keep in mind for fruitful partnerships with developing and between developing countries' business schools. What specific actually challenges are to be developed by countries and what normally business schools are facing today. And finally, the 3 main sections will be about the opportunities that we are normally having with or between African business schools, and we will normally show a roadmap about how to develop, how to reinforce a win-win partnership with and in developing sub-regions. And I will finally give at a glance the group ISCAE, our business school international strategy, as a benchmark or an experience to be highlighted. So we know that normally high-performing international business schools take a strategic approach to internationalizations, because some business schools have sought to build their brands and identities around a particular reputation for research or program excellence, and some have emerged as international specialists in such fields as entrepreneurship, leadership development, or digital learning. So the development actually of a strong global brand is among the objectives of all business schools, and ultimately that's measure to establish a strong international business school presence. Equally, internationalization as an evolutionary and often stage-based process does not mean that business school should move at one pace or at an accelerated one. And from the experience that we saw, especially the student experience framed around international employability in terms of enhancing the student mobility, and of course here the cultural part, which is a cultural goals, both and on off campus, underpinned by a strong range of strategic international partnerships, supplying commercial, academic, and reputational value. So we know that several schools actually reported basing their internationalization framework on those offered by accreditation bodies. That's why I will give here the scope about here internationalization from different accreditation entities and bodies. So if we do refer to the AMBA in terms of conceptualizing the international strategy, we know that the research quality should be of a high standard in some areas of activity and show evidence of an international dimension, because international accreditations are likely here to promote breadth and depth in internationalization and to promote as well international quality standards in teaching and research as well. We know that individual cohorts should be internationally diverse and balanced where possible to ensure as well an international dimension to the program. So the curriculum should take care to incorporate an understanding of management styles and practices from different regions and cultures, and to include diversity in examples and or case studies that are normally introduced during classes. And the last main point is about international study opportunities. Could be double degree programs, could be study tours, are to be encouraged where they enhance the student learning experience. Now, business school leaders also tend to see the scope for the benefit of internationalization across different domains and the tendency for progress in one area to support progress in another. From the EACSB, let's say, internationalization pillar, we know that internationalization is not an explicit expectation, but if pursued by business schools, of course, it needs to be mission driven. Finally, from the EFMD, let's say radar chart as a point of reference, normally for business schools planning strategies development. In this radar, we do notice that we have four main pillars among the policy, the content, the context, and the network. In the network, you have the client, the executive education recruiters should be internationally oriented, and we have alliances, partnership, consortia between different, let's say, business schools, or a bit encouraging business to business schools contact and activities, of course, abroad. So we know that strong and continuous focus here on student mobility, referring to the EFMD radar, and recruitment sits at the heart of the most institutional strategies, but other priorities around faculty, diversity and mobility, research and curriculum internationalization also tend to shape institutional action in this regard. And many schools are seeking to integrate here a digital approach and are looking at digital platform strategies. So business schools internationalization has become today synonymous with business schools mobility and cross-border operation. The popularity of e-business strategies as well. We see evidence of large scale here investment by business schools outside of their home market, either through direct investment, maybe at campuses abroad and representative offices, or through strategic partnership that function to facilitate the delivery of programs at offshore locations. So now what about the international student experience? So we know that an internationalization strategy should be articulated around 3 key factors in order to prepare graduates for working and managing in an international and intercultural business environment. So the first factor is enhancing the international content and relevance of programs by maintaining, of course, here a diverse international and intercultural community on campus, and to further diversify the current international student population, and finally developing the global citizenship of students. And then central to the delivery of this were a number of essential dimensions that needed to be considered by the enhancing the curriculum through the integration of comparative international content on courses and programs, then the growth in numbers and diversity of the international student population, which is observed during the last decades, and the development as well of global citizenship of both student and faculty through increasing student and faculty mobility flows, which is called in literature by import-export models that business schools are referring to, and the growth and development in collaborative international research and in connecting globally with business. Now, we do actually observe as well that there is a number of challenges of win-win partnership in the Middle East and North Africa region. So because in this specific region that is related to Africa and Middle East as well, and then we'll have a specific look at Africa at large. So the MENA region business schools, we know that they have different social, cultural, economic, and political contexts and challenges. So the MENA region business schools community is extremely diverse, and following this fact, so we are wondering how to develop win-win partnerships in a global scale while taking into account the specific needs of local markets in a global, normally here in particular in developing sub-regions. What common ground should be found to collaborate and develop fruitful partnerships, and finally, how to look for complementarity to impact local economies and contribute to success in a global world. So there is also 4 conditions to keep in mind for fruitful partnerships with developing countries and between developing countries business schools. I will cite here the 4 of them. First of all, we have never underestimate the high demand in terms of quality and adaptability of your partners in emerging or developing countries, because we do normally have the same scale, or we do share a common ground here, and never underestimate the role of well-established local business schools, either they are public or private business schools, in terms of reputation and field experience. And the third condition is being a force of good also means helping local business schools contribute to the development of their home countries, but being inclusive in terms of values. That means that not mean internally, but externally as well. And finally, developing countries, business schools should collaborate together because they have the same challenges and they could normally enhance their impact. So now, what specific challenges do developing countries business schools face today? So we know, first of all, that mismatch between Generation Y and Z expectations and business schools academic and financial resources. So we know that we are facing here digital and post-digital disruption, especially here after the COVID-19 pandemic. So innovative learning approaches that we are observing, and they are accelerating the rhythm in terms of learning and doing research, and the evolving role of the key actor here, the professor. And best business schools are today extremely selective, and student mobility from developing to developed countries is increasing in terms of flows, outgoing, incoming, and then poor research and intellectual contribution with local content is a negative actually spot so far that we are observing. And there are also a number of laws and regulations that are specific to each national or local countries. And then governance and quality control, ensuring good quality teaching, and faculty mobility from developing to developed countries in terms of sharing experience, and balance between global, which is global local specificities, and technical with soft and real actually skills, and national and international competition to be taken into account as well. So what opportunities lay beneath win-win partnership with or between African business schools? So if we do now refer to Africa at large, so Africa standing today as the threshold of an exciting growth area. So growing number of students with investment in human capital that is increasing continuously, and management education sector moving from peripheral concern to central stage of economic and social growth strategies in different countries actually, which is observed, in alignment of local business schools with the new paradigms of growth. So we have here entrepreneurship, startups, and SMEs culture, sustainability, and especially here the impact. And Western industrialized countries as of universal validity serving as a good benchmark for African business schools, and cultural also uniqueness of Africa in terms of perspective and field experience of well-established local business school in different regions in Africa as an inestimable added value for North-South collaboration. And here we do have joint effort to develop alternative models for management education in Africa for Africa. So how to start, how to develop, how to reinforce win-win partnership with and in development sub-regions, following normally what we are observing and what we have noticed as fact. So to start, be humble, be curious, do not underestimate, connect, get information from official sources with humility. Ask your current partners about their partners. Start with one area of collaboration. Maybe you will partner with your partners, then develop, make sure you are with the right partner, that you were not misled, and that you really agree in terms of values, local reputation, and quality. Then find other areas of collaboration, such as double degree, joint research, executive education, joint corporate partnership. Then reinforce, be creative, and find new innovative areas and ways of collaboration. Then collaborate to build regional management knowledge centers in order to develop hybrid management models based on the development of an African-based research network, which is Africa within Africa. Then be a force for good and partner to advance sustainability of the following system. Finally, I will here dedicate one section to Mohapeloa Business School at a glance, because we had our own experience in terms of gradual internationalization. So ISCAE was imagined and created by a visionary king, His Majesty Hassan II, in 1971, to serve a new vision for national independence. So since then, the ISCAE Business School has been a reference in business higher education and inspired other public and private business schools in Morocco and the region. In the picture here, you see His Majesty King Hassan II has receiving the cohort of ISCAE graduates in order to give them advices and also to be compliant with what we do need in terms of profiles in our local context. Following also or referring to our mission statement, so we do declare that we do attract and develop talent to meet the evolving needs of local, regional, and global environment. And we are defining ourselves as small business school with big impacts. In our strategy, which was normally has taken place from 2016 to 2020, which is called ISCAE 22. So the achievements are several, but I will give a special focus on internationalization, because we have remarkable figures and qualitative approach in terms of partnerships and concrete actions. And during in our programs, because you know that a public business school or private business school in Morocco, so in higher education, so the main language of learning is French. So we have introduced an English pad, especially for our Grande École program, which is a master degree program, in order to give our student the capacity to learn further and then to be in alignment with the global standards. So what about now the actual strategy that we are undergoing today, which is called ISCAE 2023, which is strategic reshaping, acceleration, and convergence. And the main here element among, let's say, the CAP ISCAE 2023 strategy, the internationalization at the heart of our concern, which is reinvention of international immersion by choosing and picking up the partners, and then also to orient our student into, let's say, different and environment internationally, and then to start exchanging student, faculty, and then developed consortia between different business schools across the globe, then betting on Africa, which is our main continent, and then earning international accreditation as well. So we are always betting on Africa, because we do normally with our partners, which is here the agency of the Moroccan Agency of International Collaboration, which is related to our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So we do give free seats for our African partners. And then we do organize a dedicated day for Africa in our main campus in Casablanca and Rabat as well. And we do have a specific, let's say, example here is ISCAE Guinea, which was a transfer of experience to our Guinean in Conakry partners, because created in 2002. So ISCAE Guinea is a concrete example of successful South-South cooperation between Morocco and Guinea. So with our normally counterparts, especially here, the Moroccan side and the Guinean side, so we started to transfer our expertise in teaching and doing research in the field of management to ISCAE Guinea. Our faculty, they go there to teach and they do research there. And the director of ISCAE Guinea is one of the ISCAE or Group ISCAE faculty. And especially during the royal visit in March 2014, His Majesty King Mohamed VI and His Excellency the President of the Republic of Guinea were keen to renew the protocol that governs this institute, that's given a new impetus to human development in Africa through the training of future generations. So in our campus today, and this picture is taken from our campus, we do have a growing international community from Asia, Latin America, Europe, North America, Africa, and all the countries in approximately the countries in the globe are represented. And we know that diversity actually is has a priceless treasure for us, because through diversity, inclusion, responsibility, commitment, and by the way, this picture is taken as well from the campus, and you see that we have a diverse profiles here of students, especially incoming students, could be incoming during an exchange period, or simply they are permanent because they were recruited through international here call that we are very open to international calls in terms of partnerships, in terms of having permanent students as well. So normally here, many business schools have regretted there has a major investment abroad and or in striking international partnership without mission actually consonance or due diligence, because we know that strategic partnerships and networks have become central to internationalization projects and mission, supporting, of course, here the quality focus, breadth, and dynamism. We see as well as characterizing business school internationalization as a phenomenon, because first of all, business schools ranking bodies. So if we do refer to the Financial Times, Economist, QS, and accreditation authorities that I have cited shortly, AECSB, AMBA, and EFMD, strongly reinforce this progressive view of internationalization and embracing through internationalization in business school education through import-export model means the incoming and outgoing flows of student and faculty. So academic joint ventures through double degree program, exchange experience, and academic partnerships and alliances and consortia, especially dedicated for research and co-organizing international conferences and events, and also the strategy which is based heavily on investment, which is having campuses abroad. So the models of internationalization are not mutually exclusive, so you can run several of them, or simply you can have only one vector, and internationalization strategies within the business school will tend to be fairly actually holistic, because as we do notice from the EFMD radar, which we have different elements from the policy, the content, and also from the elements related to partnerships, and from also the elements related to the curriculum. So we know that schools are pursuing today comprehensive internationalization strategies. Thank you, Ben.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Amine, for that. That was great. Very insightful. Now we will be moving on to our next speaker, Abraham Osinubi, Executive Director of University Lagos Business School. So yeah, Abraham, the floor is now yours.
Well, thank you, Ben. Yeah, once again, thank you, Ben, for inviting me to this. Let me also seize the opportunity to acknowledge the presence of my successor. Actually, my term as the executive director ended about 2 weeks ago. So my successor is actually on this call as well. Is Professor Mike Adebamo. Once again, thank you. I will go through this outline, background, introduction, all the way down to benefits, recommendations, and conclusion. The roadmap is actually what we have been doing at the University of Lagos Business School between 2018 and 2022 as an overview, and then I will give my concluding remarks. Thank you. Let's look at this background. I will largely be basing my presentation on the premise that technology is going to be a key driver, as a matter of fact, the major driver of education. And that is exactly what you have been doing at the University of Lagos Business School. So at the third industrial revolution, education was largely more of networking approach, and that has been fueled almost completely by connectivity and internet. And by the time we got to fourth industrial revolution, which we believe we are in now, we have transformed education using advanced technology. And it's arguably that we are actually in the fifth industrial revolution. So we are probably, if not in the fifth industrial revolution, we are getting towards it very soon. So anyway, in the first industrial revolution, we have witnessed big use of artificial intelligence, big data, cyber and physical systems, Internet of Things, and the rest of them all. So teaching and learning landscape has changed completely, highly dynamic, rapid in nature, and of course, affecting both faculty, non-teaching staff, and the student as a whole. And recent developments that we have made use of in the University of Lagos Business School, I will go through later. So these radical changes were actually emanated because there are changes in workplace as well. And since we are actually training for the workplace, it means the training must be reflected in terms of preparing our graduates for the workplace. Of course, the workplace has changed almost completely. And our graduates, by the time they are coming out of the business schools, all of them will virtually have to work with artificial intelligence. So things have changed almost completely. So the goal of our business schools is to ensure majorly quality of learning, to enable learners get the latest knowledge through exploratory research and sustained development of societies by means of the service they are going to provide, by means of going to different arenas, not just business, into politics, into management, into leadership, and other related fields. So I now consider the fifth industrial revolution as humans and machines working side by side, coexisting and cohabitating. As a matter of fact, it may get to the extent that we may become substitutes. So it means that we business schools must actually provide for that. Okay, a human being becoming substitute to machines, machine becoming substitute to humans. Okay, so we must prepare. So let me quickly introduce our University of Lagos Business School. We were established in 2013, but we became operational in 2019 following accreditation by National Universities Commission, the umbrella body in Nigeria that is in charge of accreditation and standardizations of university education. And University of Lagos Business School happens to be one of such, being an establishment or an offshoot of the University of Lagos. Okay, our vision is to be top-class business school, globally recognized for excellence and knowledge. Our mission is to provide innovative business research and training, leading to capacity to deliver sound business and entrepreneurial success. These are our core values: uniqueness, leadership, integrity, business innovation, synergy. Synergy, I need to mention, especially to emphasize that the synergy here is largely between the academia and the industry. The synergy here is largely between the faculty and the management. Synergy here is also implies synergy, collaboration between the faculty and the learners. Our aims are this: we are to train and develop global managers and leaders in a highly competitive and rewarding environment. Okay, our objectives as follows: to provide highest level of education and research, to foster innovations, to strengthen human resource capacity for organizations in terms of enhancing and increasing productivity, and to serve as melting point, focal point, source of inspiration, source of resources, source of results, source of solutions to global problems, to national problems, and to local problems, and of course to inform policy debate. And in all this that we would do, we promote commitment to the principles of sustainability in all our undertaking. This is very important to us. So what is internalization? Internalization has become a topical issue. And as a matter of fact, it now means different things to different people. For some people, it just cross-border education. For some people, it just means business. Okay, but let me just take two that I relate with very well, and that is, I regard it as an education system in response to reaction to globalization. And this is very important that we regard it as a response, because this would actually determine whether it is something for us to consider as business school, or is something that we must have to do if it is a response to reaction to globalization. While some are saying that, look, it's a process of integrating international, intercultural, and global dimension into the purpose, into the functions, into the delivery of tertiary education. So in other words, international cultures must be involved in globalization. So now let's look at the overview of what we have done in the last 4 years at the University of Lagos Business School. Our culture is so important to us as a business school. Our culture impacts heavily on our nomenclature at the University of Lagos Business School. For example, at the University of Lagos Business School, they are nothing like lecturers. They are nothing like teachers. All we have are facilitators, and it has been deliberate. It has been intentional that we move out of the zone of calling anybody calling anybody or anyone for that matter that has come to give information, to refer to them as lecturers or teachers. We intentionally call this set of people facilitators, because they have only come to serve as figure of authorities in the class, to maintain order, okay, to facilitate learning by actively engaging and interacting with the participants. As a matter of fact, we don't even call anybody students at the University of Lagos Business School. It's our culture, it's our policy. Okay, we call them participants, meaning that it is actually participatory in nature. Also, again, we don't have lecture rooms, we don't have classrooms. All we have, we call them, we have our meeting rooms, and these are also actually intentional. Our policy also reflects on our mode of interactions. Okay, we make learning as enjoyable as possible, based on the premise that if learners do not enjoy their experience, there is no way they can retain knowledge, there is no way we can transmit knowledge, there is no way they can carry out the knowledge they have actually gained. And our school is practical oriented. We focus more on skills acquisition rather than head knowledge. No course, for example, is single-handedly facilitated by one single academic. It is always in conjunction with at least one industry practitioner, an industry expert that has minimum of 25 years of experience. Yes, minimum of 25 years of experience. And of course, regular assessment by facilitators, by the participant is so important to us, for us to know what we have done right and where we also need to have some improvement. And we have, it's also our policy. As a matter of fact, use of case study is sacrosanct at the University of Lagos Business School. This is part of the vision of excellence that drives the operation of the University of Lagos Business School. Faculty members are key drivers. This is our strong belief. They are not the holy drivers of internationalization, but they are key drivers. And therefore, we organize top class facilitators workshop periodically, and these are it is mandatory for actually facilitators to actually take part at least once in a year in this workshop. So we also discovered that over time, a lot of business schools are focused largely on transmission of knowledge via teaching and learning. So what we have done at the University of Lagos Business School is to set up a unit known as the Research, Grant and Publication Unit. I mean, this unit is supposed to produce strategic documents for the University of Lagos Business School. And for the University of Lagos Business School, this unit had worked tremendously to have organized our maiden University of Lagos Business School conference last month, and also last month to have presented and launched at the first edition of the Journal of the University of Lagos Business School. We have also ensured, this is mandatory, we have also ensured that we had a stable calendar. For example, we advertised that first set of MBA will resume to 2019, September, and they will graduate in the next 2 years. And exactly when the presence of COVID, in the presence of lockdown, in the presence of industrial action, we have been able to maintain a stable calendar. Any business school that wants to be internationalized, okay, must have a stable calendar. Of course, we are taking the issue of alumni very, very serious, because we believe eventually the alumni are going to be the ambassadors of the school. So treating them carefully, okay, is so important. It's not just about when they have gone out, also while they are actually learners at the University of Lagos Business School. And we have done that beautifully, and we have also inaugurated our alumni. Okay, international recognition is so important, and membership population. In August 2020, we are actually admitted to the membership of Business Graduate Association, and at the African Business School, okay, also actually admitted us on the 12th of May 2021. We are currently talking with AACSB, that's Association to Advanced Collegiate Schools of Business in Florida. Our next move now is to actually get full accreditation from BGA and ABS. Okay, collaborations. Several organizations, including schools, private sector, governmental organizations, and in fact, we have drawn a couple of MOUs with many organizations already. Challenges, are there challenges? Yes. For example, at the University of any business schools are to be autonomous. Running a semi-autonomous body or autonomous body within a government institution has inherent challenges. There is no doubt about that. Secondly, international student mobility is not big business for many schools. Rather than attempting to build capacity for developing countries, many developed countries have seen it as business. And I hope that the African business schools and the Middle Eastern business school will note this, and we can actually ensure meaningful collaboration within among ourselves. Status building also has become the initiative because of aspiration for higher rankings. Okay, this is now actually replacing genuine collaborations. Benefits of internationalization cannot be overemphasized. There is no doubt about that. Standardization is number one, all the way down to internship, immersion, postdoctoral. And I'm very happy that Amine, in his own presentation, actually also emphasized this. Okay, what are my recommendations? Number one, moving between borders and gaining international outlook. We must begin as business schools in Africa and Middle East to continue to establish strong linkages and official partnership with top global business schools, especially among ourselves in Africa and in the Middle East. This is no longer something to be considered. It is something that is mandatory. It is a must for us to move ahead. Okay, we must also offer a wider range of degree programs than before. This will allow students, learners to study at a time and pace that actually suits them. Gone are the days when we must be rigid about the timing of courses. We must begin to actually ensure flexibility in our program, not just giving a wider range of degree of program. Now it is about making sure that learners develop reliable compass and navigation skills to move around, okay? Because I've regarded this world now as very uncertain in terms of business, highly volatile, highly dynamic, and highly ambiguous world. So we need to begin to train along that line so that our graduates can actually navigate through all this. Effective collaboration is critical. This can never be overemphasized. Collaboration and sharing are major characteristics of new culture. Blurring of boundaries. In fact, there are no boxes any longer. There are no boundaries any longer between physical, digital, and biological. There is fusion of advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, 3D printing, genetic engineering, quantum computing, cloud technology, data analytics. And the simple reason is that highly needed now is the higher order of thinking in this fourth and fifth industrial revolution. And as business school, we must collaborate not only with ourselves, we must collaborate with governments, we must collaborate with industry. After all, these are the people who actually need the products that we actually model at the business school. So there is need to prepare these graduates for lifelong learning. Curriculum design. What we have done at the University of Lagos Business School is to actually even involve government, involve industry practitioners at the very beginning of the design of the curriculum. And this is really very vital because they are the end users. The end users must now be involved in the development of curriculum. Those working in the places of work, those working in government, those working in industry, those working in the business, they must be involved at the very inspection of the curriculum. It's no longer business as usual when the curricula would have been fully developed and then graduates have already come out and then we pass the graduates with certain knowledge that we believe as academics that they need at the industry. No, they must be involved right from day one. Okay, robust strategy on research enterprise is also very important. This encompasses university industry collaboration that will include immersion, internship, curriculum development, even clinical trials as the case may be, commercializations of IPRs, etc. All these are necessary also to generate and lead external funding. Okay, aligning learning methods with skills cannot be overemphasized in this present day and in the future. At the University of Lagos Business School, our mode of interaction actually require participants to learn how to adapt quickly to new situations as we have in this world. Accelerated remote learning is suggested, case-based learning, problem-based learning, acquisition of soft skills, solving complex problems, and social skills and process skills for that matter. In order to prepare future graduates for work, schools, business schools, as universities, especially in Africa and Middle East, we must begin to align our teaching and not just teaching process now, all processes right from day one to the very last day of studentship in accordance with technological advancement. And like I said at the beginning, technological advancement is going to actually drive the next stage of education. So rather than many fighting against these technologies, okay, and as such a novel teaching pattern, we must look at how we can accept them and ride on them, transform learning environment to the benefit of our students and academics and other stuff for that matter. University of Future that I see promises to be an exciting place, an hyper smart citadel, and we must prepare for it. In conclusion, indeed, we are in the second machine age, and some have arguably called the new machine age. But that age represents revolutionary changes in virtually everything. Education, inclusive, especially tertiary education, business education, leadership education, all inclusive. The transition is profound and the pace is unprecedented as we learn to harness massive amounts of data being collected these days. Internationalization has become a necessity for us as business schools in Africa and Middle East. It is no longer something to be considered. It is no longer something to say whether it is a matter of choice or not. It is a matter of necessity, and the time is now. Business schools in Africa and Middle East must develop an internationalized educational system. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Amine, for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Abraham, for that. That was really insightful. I'll now hand over to our final speaker, Thabang Moleko from Rhodes Business School. Thabang, the floor is now yours.
Can you see my slides? Are they visible?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity just to present how we see internationalization. Excellent inputs from Prof. Amine and Prof. Osinubi. Thank you so much. I just have to lead on from that. Now, what I want to talk about today, I want to talk about Africa itself in its context, talk about the university and the business school. Fortunately enough for us, we've just seen ourselves get an internationalization award from the school, but I think to me, it was really about the context of how we apply internationalization and really just outline how we went about it. And of course, it's got risks and challenges that we would like to outline. First thing first, I would love to show is the way Africa is perceived and seen. And it, you get maps and you sort of see us the same size as Greenland in the Mercantu projection. And you look at the size of the US and Canada and you think that they're bigger than Africa. But the reality of it is that besides Asia, we're the second largest continent. Chinese area is quite significant at 9.6, the US is at 9.8, and the European area is at 10 million square kilometers. Why am I saying this? If you look at this, it starts to show that we have to start really looking at where does Africa sit when we talk about Africa rising and what it means to do itself. And I think the internationalization strategy of that is massive. I think we talk about arable land, we talk about raw material, we talk about gold. I mean, I was looking at the numbers. I know that, for example, here in South Africa, they have the next closest reserve holder was 6,000 megatons was Russia. We had 33,000 of that. I think nobody else even compares. I mean, we don't even talk about DRC's global reserves for the digital age. We speak about the digital age. But all these minerals are needed in DRC. And I think it's very important that our schools are producing the thinking that helps us explore that profoundly. And dare the professors or anybody else thinks I'm wanting us to go back to the resource curse of Africa. Not at all. What I'm proposing, though, is that our business schools need to look at this and look at this in context. Just a little bit about Rhodes. Our business school got founded 22 years ago by Rhodes University. Rhodes University itself is about 118 years old. And as our school, we've elected to focus on teaching sustainability and integrated business practice. We run a diverse course offering, starting with focus on sustainability, of course, starting from postgraduate diplomas to master's programs and a PhD. We located in Grahamstown, Makanda, South Africa. Grahamstown tends to be what we call a tale of two cities. It's got a really world-class education system. It's got some of the best universities and schools in the world. And then you just cross the side, you go to the east, and you'll run into world-class poverty. So it leads us to this issue where we spoke about how do we engage in leadership for sustainability? And how do we do that so that we keep that in mind in everything we do? When we look at that, we're a strong believer that, yes, make money, have a good economy, but we believe in ethical practices that you do, right, that you engage in. Don't forget the ecology of where you sit and the equity of what you do, and that you can never neglect that. So I think, like Prof. Amine and Prof. Osinubi have indicated, we're very jealous of where we take partnerships from. We want to make sure that when we engage in these partnerships, these values are lived up to and made forward. And just to understand, we recently received an internationalization award from the university on our endeavors. And they really praised our approach for sustainability, of ethical, ecological, and economic imperatives. And this gives us a context, because in our university, they want us to locate it as a conscious, proactive, and consistent effort to create an institutional learning environment that is inclusive of international, intercultural, and global dimensions. Our ambition is to make sure that our environment and culture facilitates academic staff development and practice that gives us graduates who are really constructive contributors to the national, continental, and global level in their fields. Now, one of the flagship programs we produced was a internationalization curriculum. So over 2020 and 2021, we worked with Bowie State University in Baltimore, Maryland, US, to design a curriculum or a module called Entrepreneurial and Technological Empowerment Program. And we put this as part of our full-time postgraduate diploma in enterprise management. And the intention was to better equip entrepreneurs with technology skills for successful business projects. And to show the support of this endeavor, we were supported by the Department of State in the US. And what are we propagating? What are we trying to see? I loved the discussion from Professor Osinubi about us going to the fifth industrial revolution. So what we've said, we've put cryptocurrency and of course the blockchain as the fours of how do we teach them digital financial literacy, but at the same time, this will never go away. Business schools will always be offering business development services, referring to a wide range of finance and non-financial services that entrepreneurs can use to improve performance to their business, access to market, and how to compete. So you're looking at marketing, finance, HR, and leadership. But the idea now was to say, how do we incorporate blockchain and crypto into this? So what do? We delivered the module virtually to our students and Bowie State University students. It was a very immersive, practical-oriented case study with Makanda and Maryland social entrepreneurs that are studied. And we are engaging in a student exchange. I think should be going in September, just waiting for our visas, sort that out. And we had facilitators that were really best practice from South Africa and the US in terms of what we delivered. So that was really, for me, was an exciting aspect of, okay, how do we implement this idea of internationalization? We've hosted international faculty to make sure that they teach, develop, and assist in our curriculum. I mentioned the ETAP curriculum that we just developed now. We really got good relationships with University of Leicester and the University of Ljubljana in Czechoslovakia there. We're visiting professors so that we really look, I must say Czechoslovakia, but anyway, Serbia, to visit, to ensure that our curriculum there is quite advanced and well developed. We also wanted to make sure that international conferences and symposiums are always understood. One of our faculty members is really a good specialist at International Ocean Institute of Southern Africa. and also working together with the Western Indian Ocean Governance and Exchange Products. They're really good at hosting conferences and writing retreats so that the conferences that they organize are to the fore on sustainability and leadership that they develop. We've made sure that our faculty can continue to teach at these leading institutions in Moscow, Netherlands, Finland, France. I correct myself, it's Slovenia, it wasn't Czechoslovakia, Slovenia and Ljubljana, and we're working with Indian institutions too, in terms of what we're developing. So what we're saying here is that you really have to make sure that you are up to date and really understanding what is out there and what is needed in terms of your approach. This is very exciting for me. On the course, we've developed relationships with IBS Americas in Brazil, the Faculty of Economics in Ljubljana in Slovenia, Maastricht Business School in Montpellier in France. So what that says is that our students can actually take an international elective in that course, attend there. It will be accredited as part of our curriculum. For the entrepreneurship program, as I've said, we've developed this Bowie-state relationship. And we keep encouraging mentorship and participation in international competition initiatives. So we look forward, Ben, to entering the BGA and EMBA competitions next year again, just to test ourselves and see how well we're doing. And of course, Professor Osinubi and Prof. Amine have really been emphasized the need for bilateral agreement with partner institutions. You know, you need to sign memorandums of understanding for academic cooperation. We've got active ones now with Bowie State University in the US, the International Business School of the Americas, IBS in Brazil, Luna International College in Ethiopia, Maastricht College of Management in the Netherlands, and Montpellier. And of course, we as I'm talking to our colleagues, these are not what we're limited to. We look forward to more that we can look at. But it just allows our students and our faculty to research and engage at such a high level that's there. Look, internationalization itself doesn't come without its own challenges. I've picked up that if there's not a deep appreciation of the cultural differences that people have, we might run into issues. Sometimes we spend very late nights, or very early mornings attending seminars and lectures because of time zone differences. It's very resource and capacity intensive. You know, to travel, to keep your memberships up, to keep your accreditations up is not cheap. We've ensured that you always want to ensure that you are in line with the strategic vision of the institution and make sure that whoever you partner with is aligned. And I think all our colleagues will gladly tell you, do not mess with university bureaucracy. You need to be very well versed how to navigate and work yourself around that. Foreign currency is not easy. Doing things like costing in foreign currency and in there, they need to be managed. You know, if you want to go to Europe or if you want to go to the US, we need to really start engaging in Forex, and things are expensive in those currencies. We have to have a good teams that really know how to report financially in terms of what we've done, if you've got partners. And also you just want to ensure that you report well on our projects itself, how to monitor and evaluate. And what we've picked up is that it's one thing to have the university have international staff, but I think we've realized that the business school itself needs to find itself with full-time international staff. Once again, thank you so much, BGA and Amber, for letting me present. And yeah, it's really, with the Africa Rising narrative, it means that we really have to engage and make sure that internationalization is one of the main things we do as a business school. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you so much, Thabang. That was a great presentation. And that concludes actually all the presentations we had planned for today. So yeah, thank you again, Amine, Abraham, and Thabang. And now we're going to move on to the Q&A section. So there aren't any questions currently in the box. So what I was going to do is ask the panelists a question I already have, and then, we'll just discuss it between ourselves like a panel. Cool. All right. So I've got a question I've got for, any of you here. It goes, if I was a small business school that's just starting now in the region, what advice would you have for me? Like the main top 3 things I should be doing if I want to become internationally recognized?
Can I answer to the following question?
Of course you can. Yeah, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, starting from scratch is always a difficult thing to do. And you know that internationalization, actually, like any business process, requires a series of judgment. Even if the orthodoxy is for business schools to take an holistic, approach to internationalization, there is still ample scope, to pursue a strategy for internationalization, which is based or focused on differentiation driven by institutional mission first and values. So majority of times, business schools, I will not dare to say small business schools, but business schools starting this internationalization process normally, they do initiate first exchanging student, faculty, then opening up to different regions. They start first with regions that maybe due to cultural impact. For example, if you in the Middle East and North Africa, especially North African part, mainly we have the French, for example, culture or factor. So majority of time students in their mind, they do prefer to pursue their studies in terms of if it is about an exchange semester or an exchange year, or maybe even for a double degree program, they will choose first, for example, France. Then after that, they will start discovering other countries. Could be the United Kingdom, could be African countries, could be South Africa, which is very appealing, could be Nigeria, could be any other, could be Egypt, or could be Middle East or southeastern part of Asia, could be North America, Latin America, and so forth. So we start first with exchanging students, then the second step, exchanging faculty in terms of import and export. That means having income, an incoming flow and outgoing flow as well. Then in order to have a specific or to develop a new vector of collaboration with other business schools is actually to start putting faculty working together between different partners by co-organizing, let's say, seminars. So far my slide, I have presented one paradigm which exists today because we are assisting due to technology disruption to digital world, which is normally bridges the gap between the physical world and the digital world, and it helps. It's a lever normally for internationalization as well, because it helps bring in, for example, faculties from all across the globe working together, co-organizing events, which is today what we are doing. So we are here for 3 panelists from different regions in Africa. So we are discussing a common topic. We are discussing a topic which has the same interest for all of us. And this is, let's say, the digital or the virtual world will back up the internationalization, because we do not need, as I said in my presentation, that the models that we do have today, or the actions that we could normally implement, so forth, as we can use them as a quick wins, since we do not are requested to invest heavily, for example, by building up new campuses abroad, or investing, for example, heavily in sending the faculty, or having, let's say, actions that are in terms of budget heavy. So we can use different channels through digital world, and this could be of great help for business schools which are willing normally to start this, let's say, this inquiry, or this remarkable and magnificent experience that any business school should have normally, in order to open up to the world, and then to have a synergy effect and to learn from this experience. Could be from student, let's say, at the student level, or because the community of the business school is wide, so you have, could be at student level, faculty level, and also those who are working in the business school. Because, for example, if you do refer to Erasmus Plus, for example, it can offer to the staff at the business school to be exchanged and to learn from each other, to have a tandem. They will come to you, you will come to them, and so on. And this is also what we need in Africa. We would like to have something which is similar to Erasmus program, for example. It will allow us in a given network to exchange our faculty, student, and our staff as well, because they will learn from each other. So they will, because there are some best practices that they should normally, it's inspired from, and then this learning process, and learning by doing actually gradually will give or discard the image related to international strategy for a business school that has normally started this inquiry. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer, I mean. Abraham or Thabang, do you have any answer to that question, or would you are you happy to move on?
Yes, just to add one or two things, being that our own school is a relatively new business school. Okay. We are just 4 years old, and that question is really very, very pertinent. What Amine has spoken very well extensively. Just to add that if you are starting a new business school in our region now, the business school should focus largely on what I personally consider as the first and second benefits of internationalization. And number one is standardization. Number two is mobility of workforce. So once you consider that, you must then at the initial stage, at the conceptualization stage of the vision and mission of this business school, you must put that into cognizance. Meaning that I remember when we in our first year, we wanted to go through internationalization by collaborating with the top ranking business schools in the world. They basically told us we don't need it. We don't need that. All we need to do, go to the same organization that has recognized us, like BGA, AMBA, AABS, ASCBA, and that is the essence. So I would suggest strongly that focus largely on achieving standardization, and because of mobility of workers, because the people you are going to be training, the workplace has become suddenly on our palm. It's a global village. They are highly mobile, and so you must visualize that at the beginning and incorporate that into the vision and mission of the school. And secondly, you must ensure and work towards the membership and accreditations of bodies like BG and MBA. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, so I kind of know what you mean. It's like a trickling down effect, that if you from the outset you're like, we want to be internationally known in your vision, your mission, then ultimately it's going to come all the way down to your students, and they're the ones that are going to benefit from it. All right. Thabang, did you have any further comments on that?
I think for me, to encapsulate everything they've said, for me, it's really around going towards accreditation. You know, once you enter into the space of understanding AMBER space, you know, AACB space, EFMD space, it really starts to give you an understanding of the quality you need, you know, to have a business school. Because the one thing about business schools, I'll tell you, is that they're globally competitive. I know that I'm competing for students with Professor Sine and Professor Osinubi inter alia. You know, they can take South African students from me. I can take students from their side. So it is an internationally competitive arena. So, you know, you really have to make sure you keep up to the standards of accreditation. And I think I can't speak enough about those MOUs. You know, once you start entering into them and collaborating, you know, sometimes you don't know how big those are, but you start well, and you just get amazed about how well they develop and grow into something.
Brilliant, thank you, thank you. So yeah, we've got a question from the Q&A box from Hussein. The question is, what do you think about the concept of virtual exchange or virtual mobility as a low-cost solution for internationalization? Anyone care to comment on that question?
Let me attempt it first. Look, there's before COVID, there was MMOCs where people had said, okay, business schools are gone, they're done for, we don't need them. You know, we're just gonna put this thing online and people are gonna learn it there. Fine, I can take that. That's there. It is quite good to interact with the technology medium that we have. It's fantastic and it does make life good and it works. But there's nothing that beats me being in a campus, you know, with my colleagues and viewing what can be done, what's possible, and understanding things, because then we're talking about business cases that are international, looking at the context of the problem in terms of where it was, where it's there. So I think I appreciate virtual. I think it's brilliant. I think it's like a phone call that we can take, but Ben can't tell us enough about us eventually meeting at the Amber conference so that we can really start to share ideas. You know, we can really start to engage. So I'm saying for you, it's a very good option, yes, but I don't think it must be the only option in your armory.
Of course, yeah, because I guess from COVID as well, it's heightened, push forward the initial conversations being face-to-face, whereas previously they would have been over the phone, but now you can see each other face-to-face and almost network. And you could argue that, like you were saying before, Thabang, like this is almost like an internationalization networking event in itself, yes. Which does get, it's like that's the initial conversation. Then when you do meet at any networking event, be it, you know, Amber and BGA or ACSB or anyone like that, then that's where you can really start to develop international strategies. Brilliant.
So I would like to add something here, especially about a virtual exchange experience as a consequence mainly of COVID-19 pandemic. And this experience, I do believe that this experience is very limited because it does offer to students only the possibility and the ability to follow up courses online without any real interaction, because the exchange experience on site for students is very appealing because it's a social experience, because they do interact with other students. They do start understand or start using different, let's say, aspect of intercultural, let's say, interaction, discovering a new environment, trying to adapt to it, to readapt themselves, to adjust their behavior, trying to respond new opportunities. And even, for example, for one exchange semester, a student could be here impressed by the environment and could decide later on to pursue another program, another degree program in the host university or business school, and then could offer a new opportunity in terms of career and in terms also as considered as a social experience. But sitting in front of computer all the time during one semester and missing, let's say, the positive outcomes that could be extracted from the on-site experience could be simply a solution for a given period, which was here during the COVID-19, let's say, pandemic, or if there is other reason, but should not be generalized as a solution that should be adopted by business schools in order to have or to start an international, let's say, perspective.
Ben, just one thing.
Of course.
Yes, just to add that taking that perspective of sitting down in computer, as good as technology may be, is to take a very, very restricted, very limited view of internationalization as sitting before the computer. It's a lot more encompassing. It's certainly more than that, you know, as good as technology may be. Even when you upgrade to 3D, when you even upgrade to the so-called virtual reality, they are still very highly limited. You know, so I quite agree with my other two colleagues. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's one of those things that we all, I think, post-COVID, we're all very aware of how tiresome it is behind a computer the whole day. And I think kind of going back to the question about it being cost effective, ultimately doing virtual is a very, very good cost effective way of becoming more internationally recognized and bridging the gap between different cultures. And so I think ultimately it is a good idea, but as we're all aware, the face-to-face, you know, it can't be replaced. So almost, I guess, a good advice would be a hybrid method. So, you know, having some courses that are online, but then the students would go over to the country if they can afford it, or, you know, having something in between. So it's not all just in person and not just all online. So it's almost like a cost-effective way for, you know, a new school that might not have any funds to send students abroad or pay for students to come over here. It might be quite difficult. Okay, thank you for your comments on that. Just gonna move on to another question. So it's a question from Brian here about how have you overcome the challenges associated with domestic regulatory requirements vis-a-vis internationalization objectives? So for example, if a student goes to one of your partners and does a course and it doesn't appear in their qualification registration documentation, how have you overcome that? So essentially they're not going there and getting an actual certificate award, but they're learning.
I think on our side, one thing we want to do is that when we engage in internationalization partnership, right, we work with our Office of Internationalization at the university that understands their criteria. So you know who they're talking to and who they're dealing with. Then it's very tricky now when you're talking about cross-border approaches to curriculums, because curriculums tend to then get governed, regulated in terms of locally. I say this strongly because this is my PhD dissertation that I'm trying to cover. And the reflection on this is that, was it to get a curriculum appear to say you were at that university, or was it really to sort of say you've benefited from being there and you've engaged? But I think when you look at it, it probably still has to be marked by Rhodes if it's a Rhodes student and reflect on our curriculum, because remember, our contract is an essay contract based by our accreditation body and its accreditation criteria. You know, so once you start, you know, talking dual curriculums, you've got to be very careful that both entities are in agreement, if I may.
Yeah, definitely. There kind of has to be a partnership in place, isn't there, to ensure that when they go over there, they are actually getting some qualification. Amine, do you have a comment?
Yeah, actually, we do have at Group ISCAE what we call the temple keepers. So the temple keepers are faculty that are in charge normally for pedagogical aspects. So they do monitor different tracks that are offered by our partners. You do make sure that normally when the student or students go for an exchange program or double degree program, that the courses that they have picked up during their, let's say, exchange program does match with their specialty and the major mainly. And then definitely, it's not an easy task, because you could have, for example, just in finance major, you could have different or marketing, you could have different, let's say, specialties and options that you can normally pick up all the time. But this is a very, very heavy work for from a pedagogical perspective, because you should, for example, if you have the flow of 200 students, one shot going abroad, you have only one, for example, faculty per, let's say, major. to do this work, which is very heavy in terms of time, in terms of checking up all the syllabi, and then trying to see whether or not does match with the major. If, for example, the student will not succeed, is it possible for him to have a chance to pass another exam at the host entity or at the entity which is normally is enrolled in? Because visiting students formula is quite complicated from pedagogical aspect, because it seems very easy because it has, let's say, it's very simple. You can do it easily, but in terms also of mismatch in terms of curricula that could exist between different partners and in the same major could be normally an adversity that only pedagogical normally responsible as a faculty could normally manage it well.
Perfect, thank you. So you're almost saying that, like, take the time to really establish the network and understand, okay, the curriculum and how they can actually be joined up together. Because, like you're saying, you don't want your students to go out there to learn and, you know, gain a lot of lifelong learning knowledge, but then not come back with any qualification to back that up. So yeah, it's a tough one to do, but I think it's definitely taking time to go through it all. Okay, that kind of concludes all the Q&A questions mainly. Did any of you panelists have anything you wanted to ask each other or any other topics you'd like to discuss while we're here?
Well, thank you. I mean, just to add that we at the University of Lagos Business School have had the benefits of being very new, rather than our newness and our freshness becoming a challenge. It has become a blessing in the sense that we had the opportunity of going virtually around the world to see best global practices, and we have tried as much as possible to inculcate that locally into our curriculum. So our curriculum is largely driven, whether at the MBA or the doctoral level, it has largely been driven by best global practices and also the internal mechanism that is fundamentally residing in what we call the NUC in Nigeria. That is the National University Commission. That's the umbrella body that has the sole responsibility of standardizing and accrediting tertiary education, especially in terms of university in Nigeria. And being that University of Lagos Business School is an offshoot, an establishment of the University of Lagos, which is the university of first choice actually in Nigeria. And we had that benefit of inculcating all this from the beginning. So that's what I'm going to suggest to people, to universities that are trying to set up business schools. They should go around the world, look at best global practices, go to the best places of work and see what is obtainable. They should also involve the end users. This is so important. You know, before, hardly do universities actually involve end users. Academicians, we just sit around the table, we draw curriculum, and then we start to teach, we produce. And then, of course, by the time the graduates come out, they have to go through rigorous training schools. In fact, one of the reasons why University of Lagos Business School was set up, because some of us saw that, look, we have almost every institution is setting up a training school to retrain from the beginning graduates of universities. I mean, for many of us, this is like wastage of exercise, wastage of funds, wastage of resources, wastage of manpower and repetition. So what you have done at the business school is to actually bring literally, this is not bringing the town, the industry experts, right from the one of crafting the vision, the mission of the business school and the curriculum especially, so that we jointly actually start the curriculum in terms of implementation and in terms of evaluation. So this is so important, I think, that we need to do now, involving the industry experts from the beginning, not after the curriculum has been drawn and then we call them. So most of the time we face with a lot of objections, I can tell you for that, especially from the government. And that is why a lot of I see a lot of good intentions from universities generally and business schools inclusive. They've drawn up a lot of models, and then they've given these models to government agencies. Of course, they were never involved from the beginning when you started it. So they are not likely to implement it. They are not likely going to buy into the ideas. But once they are involved from the very day one, they are likely to buy into the idea. And that is, those are the things that are likely going to be implemented. Thank you.
Actually, Professor Abraham, indeed, you are blessed because newly created, so you will have a leapfrog, and simply you will overcome easily the adversity that we were facing, because we will learn from experiences of each and every business school in the continent. Ben, I made your attention that our colleague from Stellenbosch University, Samantha, she is writing interesting, actually, insight in the chat box. If you could just read them for the audience, please.
Of course, yeah, I was going to move on to the comment then once you're done, but thank you for that. So yeah, we've had a good comment here from Samantha in regards to the regulatory exchanges of students and the courses. And Samantha said, we have a process with the international office, so the registrar's office and program heads. All academic content for modules our students do abroad are evaluated and approved by program heads. So the credit transfer approved by program heads and deputy registrar. So yeah, that is an example of how it can be done to ensure that when your students go abroad, they are actually coming back with something physical as well as the knowledge and experience.
You know, Ben, I'm sitting here now and I'm running an exchange program that's going to take off in the next month or two to go somewhere. I cannot emphasize the need for alignment with your administration or your leadership of the university. You do not want to go there and be seen as doing something they have no idea about, they don't support, or they have no clue. They want to be with you, because once they're with you, the amount of support you get from them and there is amazing, because they now understand, oh, this is what you're trying to achieve. Excellent. Okay, this is where you're going. Brilliant. You know, let's and then that means that I would say for most business schools, because internationalization is there, you're probably going to have at the level of a full-time staff member looking at that. You know, even if you put just faculty, but don't add limits, don't give it a passing thought. It's got to be set down and be really well conceptualized to see where it is, because I've got some other partners that want to talk to us, and I've said to the leadership now, and I don't think we fit. I just don't think we fit. I don't see where our values and their values are going to align. But some of them I'm saying, well, this is brilliant. We're on the same page, we're doing the same things. So for me, I can never emphasize enough that assessment of getting leadership and it being aligned with your vision. Once those match, it's beautiful. And as I've politely said, I'm going to be talking to my partners that I've seen here. There must be something we must do together that I hear. That's one part. And also anybody else who's looking at something to do, we really need to chat about that and see what that means.
Definitely. And if they want to get in contact with you, Thabang, through LinkedIn would be good?
LinkedIn, yeah. You've got our emails. Anybody wants to find us, they'll track us down.
Yes, just to emphasize, and at the same time, running the risk of repeating ourselves. What my colleague just said now, it can never be overemphasized of running in tandem with the goals and aspirations of leadership of the university, establishing your business school. It is so important. I happen to have gotten 100% support of the leadership of the University of Lagos, led by our Vice Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundipe FAS. The support had been tremendous, and I can tell you for free, that is one of the major reasons why we recorded huge success in the last 4 years. So it's always good to ensure that the leadership of the university actually buys into whatever you are doing as the sub-sectional leader of the business school. And I know many business schools in Africa and Middle East are probably not at the level in which they have their own senate. Most of us still run through the senate of the main universities. Meanwhile, yes, in many other schools in the US, they have their own senate. So literally the business school is not just semi-autonomous, it's completely autonomous in those, but here in Africa and Middle East, most of our business schools are semi-autonomous, and that semi-autonomous is, as a clause, is a lot limited. And I mentioned that in that look, especially you want to run a business school is actually supposed to be privately driven. That's the truth. It's supposed to be autonomous. But when you want to run an autonomous structure within a government establishment, there are inherent challenges that you must just find a way of navigating through. And that is so important, just to emphasize what Thabang just said. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof.
Brilliant. Any final comments, Amine, or you're good?
Actually, I have one remark from Professor Abraham's remark also, which is about autonomy of business schools. And the business schools also should be in alignment with the values that are taught at the business school. For example, we are teaching management, we are teaching finance, we're teaching strategies, international strategies. We should normally adopt what we are teaching actually, because sometimes in a business school you will find conflicts that you do not apply the theory related to conflict management in terms of leadership as well, in terms of internationalization and so forth. So we should make sure that our identity normally is homogeneous. That means what we are teaching in terms of values, in terms of content, should be applied within the governance structure of a business school. And actually, finally, also, there is a very interesting metrics and measure, which is about the indices that are computed in order to assess the engagement of business school in an internationalization, which is normally provides a more comprehensive understanding of different routes to internationalization than anything else yet published so far. So it measures the indices normally measures range from international graduate success, the alumni engagement, as Professor Abraham has mentioned in his presentation, to institutional physical infrastructure, global engagement, to focus on sustainability, as well as doing research, because doing research should be considered as a main component that will drive and faculty to start a global brand with especially using the network of the business school as a leverage for normally starting, let's say, doing research at large, and trying also to find, we could normally should develop. Let's say we have such kind of platforms actually, like academia, like something which is similar to the professional network in LinkedIn. We should develop something similar for academia actually, that you can easily try to type the name or the topic, then you can find easily the faculty that are normally interested by a given topic, which will help normally having Hiven and will help also to develop topics and start partnerships, because faculty could bring actually a huge effort and could also start the effort in terms of doing research, and you could partner with other faculty from other business schools, and their business school could partner with the business schools of the faculty, who is normally collaborating with the one who is normally started or initiated the contact. This means you have a number of assets that business schools should normally start and should implement in order to have a deep partnership in terms of internationalization and in terms also of disseminating, let's say, the knowledge and the know-how.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Amine. All right, so that concludes today's capacity building workshop. Thank you again to all the speakers for your fascinating insight, your presentations and your knowledge. It's been really useful. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure all the participants have learned a lot as well. And thank you all the participants for joining and for giving us your good questions. And if you've missed anything today or some of your colleagues wouldn't be able to attend, we will be sending a recording of today's presentation and the slides and the post-event comms on the Amber BGA website. Thank you once again, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.